Hello everyone, how are we doing today? We are going to continue our Gale Honor Mode run. Hope everyone's having an excellent morning so far. I need more coffee. So the goal today, as part of the series of Let's Beat Honor Mode Together, is to respec our characters. And to do that successfully, or fully, we need to enter Emerald Enclave, get Wyll, get Karlach. We're going to prep getting Scratch and respec accordingly. I only have 200 gold, but I can at least respec Gale and Shadowheart, which are arguably the two most important this early in the game. This will be a much more in-depth tutorial than we had in the beginning, because in the beginning all we needed to do was get to this point. Now we want to actually play how we want to play. Really briefly, let's go through the classes. We're not going to do like an S tier necessarily, or like a grading system, but we'll talk about which ones that I think are good and worthwhile. Barbarian, S-class. I know I just said I wasn't going to do that, but absolutely one of the best classes in the game, especially if you multi-class later on into a fighter. You then have 5 or 6 attacks per turn. They do a ton of damage. They take very little damage thanks to rage. It's absolutely worthwhile to have one of these in your party. Bards, personally, and they do have some really cool attacks in like the later levels, like Otto's Irresistible Dance, but there are other ways of getting those abilities, and I've never found their healing to be quite up to par for Honor Mode. I would recommend skipping them. I would recommend having a dedicated healer, and in this case a Cleric is who you want to go with, especially a life domain Cleric. I love Druids. Druids are great. I would consider them like an A tier. They have the ability to wild shape into whatever animal form that you want them to be, namely the owl bear is arguably the best, but they also have the ability to back up the Cleric with additional healing. But the other thing that I love about Druids, Moonbeam, which is actually my favorite spell in the entire game. It is the only spell, aside from Magic Missile, that is guaranteed to hit, and it does way more damage, and it hits twice. It comes down on an area, so you can target actually multiple enemies if they're clustered together. It's 100% chance to hit as long as they're not immune to radiant damage, and at the start of the enemy's turn, if they survived, it immediately hits them again. So I love Druids, and if you want to play with a Druid, do it. Fighters are good. You can't really go wrong with the fighter. They're like the basic class. Like if you want to just kind of mess around in the game and get a feel for what's going on here, go with the fighter. I personally never build fighters. What I do use them for is Action Surge. When I start multi-classing a little bit later on, I'll typically dip into fighter in the last couple of levels to get Action Surge. Monk. This is the best class in the game, bar none. If you build a monk correctly, they're unstoppable. They do hundreds of damage per turn. They get access to different elemental strikes. Their defense is through the roof. They can push enemies, they can knock down enemies, and they just get multiple strikes per turn. The downfall with them is their dialogue choices aren't the best. You run into that problem if you choose one as your main character. Paladins are good. I think they're a little overrated personally. Everyone always cheers about how powerful paladins can be, and they do have really high burst potential, and they're also really good at keeping your team alive, buffing, and acting as a tank. You constantly have to be able to refresh your skills, so I think you're going to be having a lot more extended rests if you go with a paladin. Not to knock them or anything, if that's the way you want to build, absolutely, do it up. I mean, they can be incredibly powerful. They're just not, in my opinion, the best. Rangers as a whole, not very good either. However, one of our party member is going to be a ranger. The reason is Gloomstalker is probably the second best subclass that you can have, because it gives you a free attack at the start of combat, which if you're dealing as much damage as you can, a full extra attack is incredible. How I like to build my rangers, and we'll get a little bit more into this in a little bit, because again, this is one of the classes that I'm going to be using, is you want to multi-class the crap out of them. You want to do a ranger mixed with a thief mixed with a fighter. You'll be putting out more damage than you know what to do with. Close to what a monk can output. And then you got Rogue. They're kind of like Rangers. I don't think they're all that great by themselves, but they do have the best, bar none, subclass. And what's so special about the Thief is the fact that it gives you an extra bonus action. At bare minimum, it's an offhand attack, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do. You can apply more poison. If you're multiclassing as a sorcerer, you can cast an extra spell every turn. If you're a monk, you get an extra flurry of blows. Every single class has some ability that will benefit from another bonus action every single turn. Now, the sorcerer versus wizard argument, I prefer sorcerers. Wizards, yes, you have more spell slots, and yes, you have a wider wider range of spells because you can just, any scroll that you pick up, you can learn it. But sorcerers have access to things like quicken spellcasting, extended spellcasting. It's a lot more fun to play that way when you're sending like 2 or 3 spells per turn. You have access to almost the same spell tree. There's a couple things that wizards can do that sorcerers can't. What I would really recommend, if you're gonna go either one, put a single level into wizard. That way, as your wizard, you have the ability to learn every spell in the game by reading the scrolls. You have the ability to double cast all of those spells as your sorcerer. And then once you get to level 11 as a sorcerer, you'll have access to the level 6 spell category, so you can now double cast all of those. So I prefer sorcerer, although as we've seen so far in this playthrough, the wizard has some really interesting dialogue options, and I'm very sad that I'm going to be missing out on those during this playthrough, but it needs to happen. Alright, so now to talk about the warlock. Very fun, but kind of like the paladin in my opinion, it's sort of overrated. I don't really see the point in trying to balance everything the way that a warlock needs to. I mean, Eldritch Blast is a lot of fun. They're not focused enough to be good at any one particular thing, so that makes them not very good. Why would you have one person that can do 4 things when you have 4 people that can each do one thing really well? That's just kind of the way that I look at it. The entire point of this is to make sure that you're beating honor mode, getting to the end of the game. To do that, we are actually going to select Ranger. I mentioned this in the first session. It's not going to make much sense story-wise because he is the wizard of Waterdeep. He's going to have all those story interactions as a wizard despite not knowing many spells because he's going to be a ranger. And that just is what it is. As for these, there's a couple different options here that would be considered good. Bounty Hunter, which gives enemies have disadvantage on their saving throw against your ensnaring strike, which is great. I personally like to go with Ranger Knight in the off chance that I find any heavy armor that's more beneficial to him. If you want to do Bounty Hunter and use ensnaring strike, be my guest. It's not something that I typically end up using, so I don't really see the point. Keeper of the Veil might be better, but you find so many of those scrolls all over the place. Magebreaker, True Strike is just awful. I'm not going to waste a turn casting True Strike. It's just not going to happen. Sanctified Stalker, arguably better than getting Ensnaring Strike in my opinion. I'm just going to go with Ranger Knight. You want Find Familiar, like I mentioned earlier in session 1 and 2. You want familiars on the battlefield. You want summons. You want as many helpers and party members as you possibly can. That way you have an extra target for the enemies. It's literally that simple, so keep with Beast Tamer. You're not going to run into issues with Sleight of Hand, and then none of these you come across enough. Not as beneficial as having an extra person on the battlefield. Okay, let's go ahead and knock all these back to 8. So you can see what I'm doing here. Actually, that was pretty close to where I was before. Obviously, you want dexterity up. Like I said, in every single class, if dexterity isn't your primary stat, it should be your secondary stat, especially for a ranger who's going to be using bows. And yes, we're going to be using bows. You want dexterity. There's a certain item that I'm going to be using through at least Act 3 that requires higher strength, but we're not going to be giving us higher strength, A, because you can always respec into having higher strength later if you really want to, but what I'm going to be doing is going to be using potions to boost our strength. Keep your strength at 8. You don't need it right this second, and when you do need it, there's going to be other ways for you to actually increase it. Same thing with intelligence, actually. There is an item that is going to boost your intelligence to 17, and we also are going to get that at level 4. So we don't want to put a single point in intelligence because it's going to be wasted skill points. We're just going to be riding out the game with that, at least for a very long time. We want at least 10 in all of these for the saving throws to be back to 0. I'm going to recommend putting 16 into Wisdom, 14 into Constitution, and 12 into Charisma. You could flip-flop Constitution and Charisma. The reason that I go Wisdom to 16 is for skills. That increases, like I've mentioned before, your Perception, Insight, Survival. There's so many skills that are tied into Wisdom. Charisma is beneficial for kind of the same reason, and it also helps with selling prices, which is actually reasonably important. That's another reason that I'd argue Sorcerer over Wizard. Their spell power is based off of their Charisma, whereas a Wizard is based off of Intelligence. So feel free to switch these two. They're going to be on the back lines. They're not going to be taking as much damage. They're not going to be the focus of all the attacks. Later on in the game, I might even go ahead and bump the Constitution down and put his Charisma back up, but for now, this is just how I'm going to start the game. The basis is even numbers only. Never leave yourself with an odd number, with like one exception. We'll get into that by the end of this session, actually. You only get a +1 to your modifiers every 2 points. So if you're stuck on a odd number, either put it up or put it down and use the points somewhere else. He doesn't get any dialogues, which kind of sucks for now, but that's going to be alright. We're going to do one for survival. That's going to help us find those dig spots. You could do stealth. I don't tend to use it as frequently as I probably should. What I end up using instead is spells like invisibility, you know, scrolls of invisibility, potions of invisibility, things like that. That's going to enable me to get much farther than a stealth check ever will. What you can do is insight. That's going to help you during dialogues. Try to do the abilities that are going to help you more often in dialogue and outside of combat. Your other characters are not going to help you outside of combat. If you're in a dialogue, for example, an investigation check pops up, only your investigation check matters. So that's why I'm going to put the point here, even though it's only at a -1. I want that little extra little bit to get what I need to get out of dialogue choices. That's Gale. We're going to go ahead and level him up. Now at level 2, you get your spell slots. Like I said, Longstrider is super important to have. The way that we're building it, I don't think anyone else is going to even have access to Longstrider, so make sure that you're grabbing that for him. I'm going to recommend Hunter's Mark, which is going to increase the amount of damage that you deal whenever you hit the enemy. So we're going to go ahead and grab that. And obviously, since we're using ranged, we want to pick the archery fighting style, which is going to give us a plus 10% chance to hit with all of our attacks. The next person that we're going to build up real quick is going to be Shadowheart. We're still going to keep her as a cleric. We need a healer, so that's what we're going to do. You want Sacred Flame, even though it's not what she's going to be using primarily for attacks. It's still helpful for enemies that are weak against Radiant. Always, always, always you want guidance. The rest of these don't really matter. Thaumaturgy is great if you're using your main character, because it does give you the advantage on intimidation and performance checks, which will come into play throughout the game. So I recommend, if you're maining a cleric, pick Thaumaturgy, but if you're not, resistance, it does give you the plus 1d4 to saving throws outside of combat as well. I'll take light at the next level up. Trickery domain. Most of these are not very good, let's be real. You want life domain. Also, it gives you heavy armor proficiency, which is going to make her harder to kill. And as I keep throwing down your throats, and I will continue throughout the rest of this campaign, defense is, and always should be, a priority. If you're not defending yourself, you're gonna die. So you see how like sporadic and spread out this is? She has 3 points that are at odd numbers. It's not necessary. It's not going to help anyone or anything at any point in the game. It's silly. First thing we're going to do is knock down wisdom. Again, the difference between 17 and 16 is 0 mechanically. Look, +3 to wisdom checks at 16, +3 to wisdom checks at 17. You only need 16. You don't need the 17. She's not your main. She doesn't need charisma to cast any spells. Let's get rid of all of that. Dexterity stuck at 10. I hate that. So let's go ahead and fix that, put it up to 16, even if she is in heavy armor. Because as we know, dexterity for medium armor caps at +2 bonus, and heavy armor caps at +0 bonus. So you're relying solely on the armor rating of the actual armor that you're wearing, and you're not gaining a bonus from your dexterity. That's okay. She has a +3 to initiative with a +3 dexterity modifier. That's going to make her go earlier in combat more frequently, which is way more helpful than something like intelligence or charisma that do nothing for her. You want her to have a slightly higher constitution. We're going to give her 12 strength because she sometimes uses melee weapons. This is basically the best distribution that you can get. We'll do persuasion and we'll do history. Even though this isn't going to do you any favors, there might seldomly be a situation where you're walking through the open world and you'll come across where it'll do like a party check. Everyone has a history check. The odds of this actually having any great benefit for the party are pretty much slim to none, but at least you'll have the ability to get a little bit more backstory that way. Medicine doesn't actually impact your ability to heal your players, so don't worry about that. In the off chance that the game sometimes will go to the wrong person, like during a dialogue, they didn't update, I think it was update 6, where that happens way less frequently, which is great, but there's still the very small chance of her being the one to be in control of the dialogue, so just that's where I'm going with this. Level her up. We're pretty much going to do the exact same thing that we did last time with her. Guiding Bolt is nice in a pinch. Inflict Wounds actually does a ton of damage, so it's good to have that in a pinch. You want all the healing spells, and Protection from Good and Evil we'll swap out for Shield of Faith. If anyone's fought the Drider, Sanctuary is what he uses, which makes you not be able to target him, which is excellent when you get to some higher level enemies. Alright, now I'm just going to take a second and redo all of this because I hate the way that it's set up. I recommend that you do this however is easiest for you. You know, the spells that you use more frequently, put them up here. I put all my healing spells in their own radial, things like that. go ahead and set that up whatever way is best for you. All right, now before we do anything else, let's make sure that these two are equipped the way that they need to. Shadowheart shouldn't be any different. I mean, she's the same class. If anything, she can now use heavy armor, but I wouldn't recommend doing this because her AC will drop because it no longer gains the dexterity bonus. There's some heavy armors where that's worth doing. In this particular case, it's not. Don't do this yet, but before we drop Lae'zel, make sure that you give Shadowheart her armor. And then there's nothing else that I think is going to be changing for her. Gale is an entirely different class, so let's make sure that he's equipped the way that he needs to be. You can put him in Shadowheart's armor. That's hilarious. Yeah, let's do that. Let's put him in Shadowheart's armor. I want to see what that looks like. That's great. Oh, I love it. Obviously, he's not going to want quarterstaffs anymore. We're going to want to put him with some kind of light weapon that's going to go with his dexterity. There we go. He can use scimitars. Those are pretty good. He can use a rapier. Let's do that. Let's give him a shield as well, and then we'll give him a crossbow. It's a little funky seeing him with, like, decked out in a crossbow and scale armor, but trust me, by the time that the party is done, you'll see what I'm talking about here. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money to respec Astarion yet. The other option, as far as this playthrough is concerned, if you didn't want to do what I'm doing with Gale and making him the ranger, you could keep Astarion as the distance ranger rogue, and you could make Gale a monk if you really want to go through those dialogue options. Again, I don't personally like the monk dialogue options, which is why I'm opting to make Gale the ranger and Astarion the monk, but do whatever options that you want to do. I'm just laying the groundwork here. We're good to go and enter the Emerald Enclave at this point. So that is what we are going to do. There's an easy way to do this fight. It can be challenging if you just kind of go rushing in all willy-nilly. First thing we're going to do is split everyone up, and we're going to have these two groups go together, okay? Arguably, you could have Astarion go with these two if you really wanted to, but I choose not to. Try not to get them too close. Don't trigger the scene. I did that backwards. You two go right here.
Excellent choice.
You two come with me. Have them up here. Try and get them both pretty close.
Your desire.
There we go. Now we can trigger it.
Open the bloody gate!
Nobody gets in! Zevlor's orders!
That pack of goblins will be on us any second!
What's going on?
Goblins are on our tail! Open the gate, Zevlor, now!
You let goblins here? Where is the druid?
Please! There's no time!
By the nine hells! Open the gate! Cannon! No!
Shit! Form a line!
Damnable roach! Provoke the blade! And suffer its sting.
Oh, Wyll.
This will do nicely.
All right. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? We're going to take these two, and we're going to give them to Gale. But first, let's actually go ahead and have him use that. He's only using ranged weapons initially. Eventually, he'll be in melee with Karlach. Not Karlach, Lae'zel. Okay. Alright, Gale. Oh, wow. You got real close. Jeez. Okay. I didn't expect to get that close. I never do. Alright, well, instead of raining fire with arrows like I was hoping to, let's go ahead and just do this. Start with Hunter's Mark, opening the battle with that.
I'm ready.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and have her try to finish him off. Nice. Now that hunt completed is great because now he can recast that on his next turn without spending a spell slot, which is helpful. Kinda want to give someone Shield of Faith.
This'll help.
There we go. Can't hurt to help keep him alive a little bit longer, right? Why are you provoking opportunity attacks? Don't do that. Eesh. Alright, Quoth. Let's have her... Like I said, do fly. It's going to increase your range of motion. And have her just get right in here and help out. I don't actually want her to die, though. Thank you, Zevlar.
Scout! Get to the high ground! Raiders, charge them bastards! For the absolute! By sickle and sword, strike them down!
Yeah, the cool thing about this fight is that those guys will constantly throw potions at you, which is just going to be helpful. Can we rush? We can rush. We're gonna miss, but it closes the gap. Nice, Lae'zel. Okay, Astarion, you should probably have a potion, which I remember let Shadowheart carry.
No escape.
I will definitely go do that. You'll get a sneak attack bonus. And a poison him. Nice. Oh, these silly people. Stop provoking opportunity attacks. Alright, now Gale, you can come up here. Again, don't forget to reapply your Hunter's Mark. Don't do the top one because that is going to use the spell slot. You want to reapply Hunter's Mark. Oh, 1 health. Okay, and you're good right there. Shadowheart. Why do I feel like you're gonna miss this? Yep. Because she always does. We are good on that. Oh, nicely done. Dang. So that's the downside of Hunter's Mark, is that it is a concentration spell. There we go. One less to deal with. We're going to put him right up here. Try and focus on her a little bit. Don't die. You should be dead by now. Alright. Alright, then we're going to get him to move up a little bit. And that way he'll have a wider command of the battlefield. High ground is important. That's why you put these two up here. Her, though, we need to go and do something about that. So...
Got to press on.
Because she can't die. How much health does she have? 14? She can survive another turn. Well done, Shadowheart. Alright, I'll take it. How's everyone else's health doing? Looking good. She's the only one that's struggling, so... Hey. Healing the wrong person there, Wyll. Nice.
No time to waste.
You gonna be able to make it that far? No. Starion, what about you? No?
This way.
As long as she doesn't do anything silly, we should be okay here. There it is.
That was the last of them.
Nice and easy.
Inside! All of you! More may follow! Open the gate!
Okay. We are not going to be doing too much here. We are literally just going to go in, do the necessary conversations, and grab Wyll, and then we're going to bail. Oh, feel free to link them back up as well. And don't forget to loot, because we need all that money. Grease is funny. I don't know if you've ever come across the skeleton and the grease. I laugh about it every single time I run into it. Gloves of power are great. There's a skeleton hidden, and I'll point him out next time we come across him. But he's over by the goblin camp. There's a large bottle inside the skeleton, and there's a scroll of grease on the ground, and I lose my mind every single time. Let's take a minute and go ahead and level these two up. Ranger's Companion. We don't want that. We do want a new spell. I would argue either Cure Wounds as another person to back up a healing in case your Cleric is running low on spell slots, or Enhanced Leap. Hail of Thorns is probably your next best option, and then there's Ensnaring Strike, which does have its uses. The reason that I don't like those, though, is that they take an action, a bonus, and a spell slot. It just seems like a lot of resources for the trade-off that you get. We've been over Fog Cloud. We know it's garbage. There's a cool cheesy thing that you can do with Goodberry if you want to try and do that, but like I said, we're going to try to avoid most cheese in this game, and Speak with Animals is you get enough scrolls and potions, you don't ever have to worry about that. I recommend Enhanced Leap for the few times that it does come in handy. The reason that we're going Ranger to begin with is that we want Gloomstalker. Dread Ambusher, free bonus to initiative, and you get a free attack on the first turn of combat that deals bonus damage just because it does. And Superior Dark Vision is always nice as well. That free attack is massive, and it's going to make short work of any battles that we have later in the game. She now has her level 2 spells, most of which are really good. For example, Prayer of Healing. I'm now going to take out Shield of Faith, and we're going to put on Warding Bond. Protection from Poison has like very limited uses in the game. You can always just keep it unprepared and then prepare it when it becomes necessary. Silence I think is kind of garbage, just like Fog Cloud. Blindness, same thing. I'm not going to waste an action to blind someone, especially when I have Quoth who can just do it for me. Let's bump out Sanctuary. I'm going to put Enhanceability in there. Calm Emotions is another one that I don't recommend you cast on NPCs to try and aid in any way, because it always backfires. A lot of people are always saying that Spiritual Weapon is incredible. It casts as a bonus action, it puts another thing on the field, it attacks. All good things that I've encouraged before several times in this playthrough. It's another person on the battlefield, right? It's also a huge waste of a spell slot. It only lasts for a single combat, and it typically does less damage than is worth the exchange for other things that you could do. So I wouldn't recommend it. Warding Bond is one of the key abilities, though. We're going to make sure that we equip Gloves of Power to him for the Sleight of Hand bonus, because once we upgrade Astarion, or once we respec Astarion, Gale is going to become our Sleight of Hand guy.
There are children here, you fool!
We was running for our lives.
You led them straight to us, and you let them take the druid too? Unbelievable!
I've seen much bloodier battles than this. Consider yourselves
And
lucky.
who the hell are you again?
Show some respect. This man saved your pathetic life.
Well, I didn't ask for any goddamn help.
Please, you were begging me to open the gate. Anything to save yourself, you coward!
The human's eye twitches. He's about to blow.
See? Insight. Important. Now, you can side with whoever you want to here. I'm going to try and get him to calm down. More violence won't bring back those you lost, so stop and think. See? Here we go. This is why. This is why I love Enhanceability. She can now cast this or Guidance. Now, what this is going to do is give you advantage on your Charisma checks. So the 1d4 is super helpful, but having double the chance of succeeding is arguably more helpful. And it also lasts throughout concentration, so she casts it once in any other interaction that you have until she casts another concentration spell. We'll go with that. There we go.
You're right. There's too much at stake.
Worried about your precious hides, the both of you.
Enough! Squabbling is pointless. The goblins have found us.
At least we agree on that.
Alright, and that keeps them both in here, which is good.
Let's deal with them.
Forgive that
Alright, we'll talk to
display.
Zevlor right now.
Aradin's a blowhard, but that's no cause for me to join him. Thank you for your help out there. I'm Zevlor.
And I'm
Well
Gale.
met. I should warn you, visitors are no longer welcome in this grove. Whatever your business, I'd see to it quickly. The druids are forcing everyone out. This attack will only strengthen their resolve.
I have no quarrel with druids.
There have been several attacks by different monsters. The druids blame us outsiders for drawing them here. Nobody's welcome anymore. They've started a ritual to cut the grove off from the world outside. We can't stay, but we'll be slaughtered if we leave. We're no fighters.
This ritual, is there no way to convince the druids to stop it?
I've tried. Korga, their new first druid, won't even see me. You, though? I know it's not your business, but she owes you for saving this place. Perhaps you could persuade her. For more time to prepare, if nothing else.
I have my own temporal concerns. I need a
Goblin
healer.
got you. The druid Halsin's a renowned healer, but he didn't make it back from Aradin's expedition. If it's not too serious, you could try his apprentice Nettie. She's with the other druids in the inner grove. They've withdrawn there to prepare this damn ritual of theirs.
Alright, I'll find her and I'll speak to Kaga while I'm
Really?
there.
We're messengers now.
We'd owe you a great
we are.
debt. If we're forced to leave now, we won't make it to the city. You'll find the druids at the heart of the grove. Please, make them see sense before more lives are lost.
Alright, there's that. Now, we are pretty much going to do a beeline here, but we are first going to at least do this loop. Feel free to steal all this stuff if you really want to. You don't need to. And in honor mode, more often than not, I'm going to recommend you don't steal. Because if you're caught, then you're going to have some serious troubles. But in this case, I will go ahead and grab that. And all of that. And I'm going to ignore the rest of it for now. You can go ahead and level up these two if you really want to. I will, I'm not going to go over what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it real quick. This is what I wanted to do. I don't know if there's a time limit on cutting that guy off. Like, does he wait for you? Does he, only show up once you get here? Does he... there's 1,000 possibilities. My fear was that he comes and kills her before you... like, if you go somewhere else. So, I'm just going to go ahead and take him out right now.
Dance macabre. Quickly.
Pull out your ranged weapons. You can dash. So how about you do that?
Can't afford to let up.
Because you don't have to rush and do this if you don't want to. I want to try and save all the tieflings, so
On the move.
that was my point of coming over here. She's gonna run away. And that'll be that.
You have good timing. Never been much of a fighter, so wrestling a bugbear would have gone poorly. But you're not here for heroics, are you? Avernus's stench is all over your skin. Let me guess. Your devil mistress sent you to get her soul coin back. Too bad. I earned it, fair and square.
Yeah, you got me. Hand the coin over and I'll be on my way. There we go.
That bloody Irenes. Devils just can't stand to lose. Here. Now go back to the pit that made you.
Thank you, thank you. Big fan of soul coins. Oh, we didn't organize her stuff either. Ha! Look at that. I do love Preserve Life because it's a channeled divinity, not a and it's an AoE, not a spell slot, so that's always nice. Aid is wonderful. Highly recommend using that all the time. In fact, might as well use that right now. Most of the time, I'd recommend waiting until Quoth is out because he benefits from that as well. I'm just kind of ripping through it real quick because we are going to be taking an extended rest pretty much immediately once I get the other characters and respec them.
What's that?
Oh, you can talk to the squirrel if you really want to.
The squirrel lunges at your foot and bites it.
Spoiler warning, don't kick the squirrel. If you're a dirge, you don't get the choice. So you can try that if you really want to, but
Her motivation.
I'm not going to waste the inspiration here.
Distracted by your thoughts, you let your guard down. The squirrel bites your foot again.
We'll just leave her alone then. She gives you like a potion ingredient or something silly if you have speak with animals or otherwise convince her that you don't mean her any harm. Talk to Aaron real quick.
Refugees, adventurers, no one in years, and suddenly we're overwhelmed. Well met. And thank you for beating back those goblins. Most brave of you. Is there anything you need? Act fast if you do. The ritual will be complete before too long.
And are you really locking down the
I
grove?
know it's drastic, but more monsters seem to terrorize this region every day.
What about the people
druids
here?
will be safe. As for those that took refuge here, well, may Sylvanas guard them as they continue their travels.
You just said the region's overrun by monsters. They won't survive by
As
themselves.
I said, it's a drastic measure. But the survival of the grove is paramount. There just aren't enough supplies to support everyone.
All right,
some
what are you
bits and
selling?
bobs I no longer need.
The real reason that we're here is to sell plenty of money now. There we go. That's actually not too bad here. Dexterity, saving throws, and checks. Yes, I'll take that. Spell Thief, man, I wish Spell Thief was better than what it is. It has such a good potential, and it just always is a letdown. Yeah, I'll buy that right now. He does have enough to sell all the rest of my wares. What am I doing? There we go. That made that a lot easier. Come back to that.
Guide your path.
No one's going to be wearing that yet. I'll give that to him. Make sure you have enough money to both upgrade your characters as well as you want to buy some stuff from... I'm going to blast right through this stuff because our goals here are to get Wyll and Karlach and then go upgrade our characters one more time. Ethel. Auntie Ethel.
It isn't the talk of the camp. Thank goodness you came along when you... Oh. There isn't a bit of colour in those cheeks, Petal. Are you hurt? Cold? Feverish? Auntie Ethel will sort you out. I've lotions and potions galore.
Just gonna let her fuss over me.
You take a sip
Don't
of that
be
and
rude
you'll
to
feel
Auntie
right
Ethel.
as rain, sweetie.
And don't tell her anything either.
As you down the
Go ahead and drink
potion, a comforting warmth spreads through you.
I swear you're still as peaky looking.
Just bone wary after a difficult day.
Stop! Even on a good day, half the camp acts like a bunch of screaming brats. I'm tempted to smack them all on the backside and tell them to kiss and make up. Not that they'd listen to little old me. Anyway, do you need anything? I have a few odds and ends for sale.
Don't tell her anything
Hey,
yet
bother.
because she is your primary source of elixirs right now. You want to buy as many elixirs of hill giant strength as you possibly can, as well as we'll grab a couple acorn truffles. Or grass can't hurt. If she ever has any hill or cloud giant fingers or any elixirs that she has, buy them all. And don't go into the southern forest until you have a very healthy supply of these, because she's like the best way to collect these at the beginning of the game, and
Take care,
we're going to need a lot of them on this playthrough. Next, we're going to go up here. Again, kind of skipping through a lot of the content in here. We'll come back during our next session and fully, flesh out the grove. Talk to Wyll.
Go on. Give me a best shot. Not bad. Again.
I can't do it. I'm not like you.
Umi, I don't need you to be like me.
What's up?
You just have to buy enough time to run. Come on. I believe in you. You can do this.
It's good advice, child. You'd do well to listen.
You're on the right path, Umi. Go on now. Practice what you've learned. Well met. The blade of frontiers at your...
The man's smile bends downward, and his thoughts become yours. You are the blade of frontiers racing through the wastes of Avernus. Just ahead, a diabolical figure, red skin, single curled horn, blazes with flame, bloodied great axe held high.
Hell's great fires. You were on the ship.
Yes, and we both carry parasites.
Doomed to shed our skin and become a lithid, or so the stories go. But we haven't sprouted any tentacles. Not yet, anyway. Could just be good luck. I'm not so...
Your minds collide once more. Wyll chases the fiend ignited with rancor. She is an infernal war devil. A threat to the living. Evil incarnate.
Shit! You saw her. Advocatus Diaboli.
Hunting in the hells. Dangerous territory.
I'm no stranger to the infernal. Better to slay a devil before her fires burn common folk to ash. Her name is Karlach, an archdevil soldier I swore on my good eye to kill. I tracked her through the hells to the Mindflayer ship, but the damned Illithids infected me before I could end her. She's out there now, preying on the innocent. I don't kill her, she'll leave behind nothing but a trail of corpses.
So let's join forces. I'll help you cast this devil back into the hells.
I'm up for the challenge. You've just got to make a little space.
Now, I personally am not planning on keeping Wyll in my party. You guys can absolutely, feel free to do so. I am going to send him back to camp, though.
A splendid plan. We'll talk more there.
Now, while I'm here and have Lae'zel in my party, so I don't have to do this later, might as well go talk to Zaru.
By Mordai's eyes, another one. My friend's blood not enough. Come to rip me open too.
In Kresh Kalir, a formal greeting begins with a bow.
Is this monster with you?
Yes, and I suggest you do as she says.
Lower. You saw another gith. Where?
On the road to Baldur's Gate, near the mountain pass. Saw us, for we saw it. Jammed its blade through Yul's belly, straight to the other side.
No twisting. Kin must have been in a hurry. The map. Show me. Up. You can keep your innards.
Oh, you're not going to eviscerate him? I was hoping for a show.
Cool your blood. I'll indulge you soon enough. The locals prove compliant. A useful trait.
I warned you, didn't I? You ought to reconsider keeping her around before she causes real trouble.
They're both so aggressive in the beginning, but I'll reinstate that they are two of my favorite characters. Honestly, you're a dab hand at interrogations. We might need that skill again.
A shell so thin requires little to crack it. The tiefling was clear. If there are Githyanki west of here, that must be our objective. Purification cannot wait.
Did you say tiefling?
I am unfamiliar with the, well, I shall not say culture. Custom, perhaps. You will educate me on matters of this Fey run.
No. Faerun. God, I love Lae'zel. What do you mean purification?
The creche holds the Zaithisk. It will cleanse us of the parasite. By covenant, I can say no more.
So, 2 spoiler warnings. 1, the reason that I choose to be kind of a dick to Zaru, even on my good guy playthroughs, is you eventually find a text that makes you realize that he is a coward. He left the other guy to die, and it's not pretty. I'm not going to talk to them yet. I'll be back for that. The other spoiler is... I will go up here and grab this real quick. When you get to Creche Kalir and you have the opportunity to go through the Zaithisk, you actually probably shouldn't bring Lae'zel.
Despite your efforts to stave
You
it
totally
off,
can, but if you're able to...
magic.
If you're able to survive it, then you are given the ability to cast all of your worm powers as bonus actions instead of actions, so it makes them way more powerful. Yep.
Will we survive?
People up ahead. Something's wrong.
You're a true soul.
Yep.
You can't die. Please, stay with us.
I don't think he's conscious. Can you hear us, Ed?
You, not a step closer.
A strange symbol glows, marked on their flesh, and something within you stirs in response.
I recommend using this right here. Telling them I will go where I wish.
I'm so sorry. It's our brother, True Soul Edwin. He's injured and I wasn't thinking.
Something stirs deep within you, hungry and alert. It's taking something you'll never get back. The injured man locks eyes with you. The parasite writhes in your head.
Hold his
Your
stare.
minds intertwine. You see his siblings, Andric and Brynna, new recruits. Yours to shepherd.
Protect them. Mind the true soul. He will. He.
Edwin! Ed! Please!
He's with the Absolute now.
A true soul. Thank the Absolute. Edwin, our brother, he was chosen. Like you.
Do you have orders for us? We were reporting to Edwin.
Alright, you have an option here. You can go ahead and tell them that you're who they're looking for, which will cause a fight. You can kill them and take their items and move on. Or you can try and convince them to go back and help with killing the owlbear later. If you want to have the owlbear cub in your camp, don't send them to fight because they will very likely end up killing the owlbear cub. If you don't care as much, then yes, go ahead and send them along because the extra hand in the fight is definitely beneficial, but it's not worth risking losing the cub.
What? Are you testing us?
A true soul, like you, has been chosen by the Absolute. You speak with her voice. Your words are her command. She grants you the power to enforce her will. And when the time comes, the true souls, you, will rule.
I will serve at no ruler's side but my queen's.
Ah, crude Summer. You have more to learn of our faith, novice.
I'm sorry, true soul. I only repeated what I thought I knew. It seems the Absolute still has a great deal to teach me.
Damn straight she does. Why are you out here anyway? The wilderness is dangerous.
We know that all too well, sir, but the Absolute sent us here.
We're looking for fugitives, survivors from that ship that crashed farther west of here.
And what happened to your brother exactly?
An oil bear. It had him on the ground before we had a chance to react. We managed to drag him away, but the beast's claws had already done their work. I told Edwin not to look in that cave. It was filthy with oil bear tracks.
I think we're going to go for the owlbear cub. Why not? Forget the owlbear. You're still alive. Go.
And just leave Ed. I suppose he'd want us to go on. Find a way to honor his sacrifice.
May the Absolute guide us.
Could have killed him now that I think about it, but that's fine.
That was quite the load of gobbledygook, wasn't it?
You should search that corpse.
Careful when you're doing these jumps. I mean, it's not the worst, but you can absolutely take some damage from the jump, so try to avoid it if you can. What do you want,
So the
Lae'zel?
tadpole gives us the ability to influence others.
Ignore it. Deny it. This is nothing but a disease, and every use will sicken us further.
Nonsense. Any power freely given is a power well received, and this is a valuable power indeed.
It's only valuable if we understand it, and we don't. Not yet, at least.
Say what you want here. I'm going to say we'd be foolish to do anything with these tadpoles until we understand them better. Caution is key.
Sensible.
Ultimately, it doesn't matter because, yes, I am absolutely
Strange
going to
power
use
resonates
the
within
illicit
the
powers.
corpse. It calls to you. Your limbs move of their own accord. There's something of value here, something your mind craves. Why let its host's memories go to waste? The tadpole has absorbed it all. Its experience could nourish you, strengthen you.
I'm going to go ahead and welcome the influence. I like the illicit powers, so there's no reason to not using them. Later on, you'll have a much bigger choice on how you want to develop these powers, but for now, take them and use them. It does nothing except benefit you this early on.
One thing to have a parasite in your head, quite another not to know it's there.
Make sure you're getting that shaft of a broken spear as well.
Of our own uninvited guests.
Now we're going to go get Scratch. And like I said before, pick up any of these that you find along the way, any alchemical items. Even if you don't end up using the items, you can make the potions and sell them. So, don't need to go that way right now, but we will later. I'm going to ignore the Owlbear Cave. Do not go in there. We are not ready.
Do you think your kin
Again, kind of ignoring this.
A vain notion. I am one of many, and will not be a burden
Alright,
to my
this is Scratch. He's our buddy. Reach out to pet him. Try and peer at his collar right now. You also have the option of doing the animal handling roll, but I have higher perception, so that's what I'm going with.
Etched into the leather. Scratch.
Yo, you don't like Scratch, do you, Steely? And then tell him, it's alright, Scratch, I'm not gonna hurt you. It's okay, Steely boy. You're alright, Scratch.
Heartbroken whine. The dog bows his head.
And feel free to cast Speak with Animals before you speak to him, because the dialogue is obviously much different. Come on,
He
Scratch, follow me.
whines, but remains rooted by the corpse's side.
And then hold out your hand so he can follow your scent to camp. Not you. You're not following. And that's it. And then walk away. Don't try to loot the corpse. Don't try to do anything else. Just walk away. And then we're going to hop over here. There's a whole bunch of stuff to loot if we go to the left. But again, we'll come back to that. There is one thing that I want to grab. Is it over here? Ah, right here. You find this skeleton. Grab the smuggler's ring. It gives you +2 stealth and +2 sleight of hand. The -1 charisma does suck. But honestly, it's worth it, and at least in the early part of the game. Come on, Shadowheart. You can do it. You can do it, Astarion. There we go.
I have the magic touch.
Alright. Might as well grab this key so we don't have to come down here again. You don't actually have to pick up every single little bottle and stuff. I'm doing it more out of force of habit than anything else.
One horn. This is the devil Wyll has been tasked to kill.
Me! Never been better.
There's a weird glitch. I just gotta continue, not a dialogue option.
Fuck me.
It's you, from the Nautiloid. Please tell me I found you before those so-called Paladins of Tyr did.
I don't remember you from the ship. Where were you?
Now that's a story, and I'll tell it to you, but truth be told, we shouldn't stay here too long. See, these Paladins of...
A great heat roars through you. Her heat, fiery as the hells. Then you're lost in visions of demonic
Hey, thanks for the follow.
as you tear
Real?
through
I
a
appreciate that.
landscape of fire and
Welcome to the
blood.
stream.
The Blood War. You saw it from above as the Nautiloid passed through Avernus. This woman was on the front line.
What was that?
Maybe you ought to shed some light on what I
The
just
Blood
saw.
War. But brother, believe me when I tell you the fighting wasn't even the worst part. From that peek I got into your head, I'm not the only one with problems on top of problems. A mind flayer tadpole, huh? And no joy getting it sorted as of yet, I see. I'm Karlach. And you are...
Alright, spoiler warning. If you are playing as the Dark Urge, or otherwise just feel like being a dick, and you decide to kill Karlach for Wyll, you end up getting one of the best items in all of Act 1 as a reward. I mentioned during our first session, our Session 0, that if you wanted to play the Dirge, you'd get some items early on that would be beneficial to an honor mode run. This is your opportunity to go ahead and kill her. I know it sucks, but it's actually really helpful. I'm not going to, because I'm planning on putting Karlach in my party, and it's not necessary. You know, it's one item in the grand scheme of things, and you're losing out on a great companion, arguably one of the best companions in the game. Karlach, I met someone named Wyll who was hunting you. He said you were a devil.
Thought I'd lost the Blade of Frontiers on the Mind Flayer ship. Well, if it isn't obvious by now, he's wrong about me. I'll prove it to him if he stops swinging that sword around long enough to listen to sense. Now that we're old pals, how would you feel about helping me kill some evil bastards? A little background, if your moral compass needs something to point at. You already know I fought in the Blood War. I was good at killing demons. Really good. So good, Zariel, the Archdevil herself, made me her personal attack dog. I played along until I could get the fuck out of there. Took me 10 years to properly escape, but now I'm free. Zariel sent goon after goon to hunt me down. But believe me when I tell you, I'm not going. The latest yappy little dogs she sicked on me are nearby. A group of dopes posing as Paladins of Tyr. Want to help me take them down?
So of course we do. Let's send them back where they came from.
Fuck yes. They cornered me outside the toll house just up the hill. Doubt they've gone far after the scorching I gave them. After we've mopped them up, we can work on evicting this parasite and take Faerun by the short hairs. Sound good?
A warrior who winks at her foes while she slays them. You'd be a fool to refuse her.
Sounds like a great plan.
I'd hug you if it wouldn't scorch your skin off. Looks like your troops all trooped up. You'll need to send someone packing if you want me to join.
Meet me at camp.
I'll catch up with you when it's time to camp for now. But don't get to any of the fun stuff without me. Got it?
We're gonna go ahead and take what's in her backpack. Real quick, I would recommend going back to camp at this point, but since I'm hunched over and I need a magic item, I'm gonna go buy one to consume, and then we'll head right back to camp. If you're not playing as Gale, or if Gale isn't in your party, feel free to skip this part and head right back to camp. I think the Dragon's Grasp is probably the least expensive one that he has. Alright, let's go ahead and buy the Dragon's Grasp. It's a pretty crappy item to begin with.
Sylvanas be with you.
Like we learned before, we can go in here and consume that.
The orb settles within you. It is sated, yet dissatisfied. A disturbing development, but one you need not act on, for now.
And then we're going to go ahead and pop back to camp. The downside about playing as Gale is you lose all of the stuff that he has to sell. He has quite a bit. Very minor inconvenience. Now that we're here, and we have all 6 of the primary PCs, go ahead and take your time and pick out whoever it is that you wanted to use. If you want to use Wyll or Lae'zel or whoever, like, now's your time to organize the party the way that you want to. Okay, she's now going to equip to get the Yankee half plate. Actually, I'm going to give the boots to him, I think. That athletics boost might be nice. Okay, so now we're going to go over to Karlach.
Hey, Looks like your troops all trooped up. You'll need to send someone packing if you want me to join.
I'll go through all the dialogue and stuff with her later. Right now, I just want to replace her with Lizelle.
Let's hop.
And again, it doesn't matter who you take with you. You can take whoever you want. I'm still going to recommend that you follow along with my character builds. But if you want to do things a little bit differently, if you want a wizard in your team or a sorcerer or a druid, let me know. Shoot me a DM, message in the chat, comment on the later YouTube video.
And this one,
I'll give you
less
advice.
worthy still.
Less worthy still. More riddles from my resident jester.
I riddle thee not. I speak only what requires telling. Beyond mortal realms, there doth exist an amalgamation of spirits akin to thine own, ensnared by the treacherous cult of the Absolute, felled in its name. They bear great discontentment with their destiny. For a mere pittance of coin, I might summon the worthiest among them to lend aid to thy undertaking.
Will these hirelings be joining me willingly?
Most willingly, forsooth. Their passions doth run deep for what hath been wrought upon them. Very well.
Well, let's talk about them, because we actually do want to
Impossible.
recruit a hireling.
Thy party is full.
I'm going to take Shadowheart's place. Why not?
As thou desire. Choose.
You can choose whoever you want here. It doesn't matter. I am going to go with Sir Fuzzalump because he's already a wizard and that's who we want. So at this point, we are now going to respec these three characters. Let's start with Starion. Okay, so far we have our ranger rogue, who is our main character. We also have a cleric. We are missing a wizard or a magic caster, who in my campaign is basically going to be Shadowheart. She's going to take that role through the use of scrolls. I'm going to recommend you make Starion a monk. I said it earlier when we were going through these, that monk is bar none the most powerful class in the game. They output the highest DPS, and I will stand by that. I will die on that hill, so we want one. As usual, we'll drop all of these back down. He doesn't need intelligence. He doesn't need charisma. They get unarmored defense, which means you need higher wisdom with him as well. So let's go with, as usual, the high dexterity. We're going to trade that out for wisdom, and then we want to put the rest of his points basically into constitution as high as you can, and then the rest, let's do that. We don't have any strength at all because we're going to be boosting that with potions later, and when we get Tavern Brawler. Wait a minute. Yeah, this was the exception. Let's knock off a couple intelligence points, and we'll put that into one more point into Constitution. This is one of the very, very, very rare exceptions where I'll say go ahead and do an odd number because we plan on getting Tavern Brawler, which is going to give you a single point to put in either Strength or Constitution. You put it into Constitution, you'll then have 16. Whether you do Charisma or Intelligence as your 10 doesn't ultimately matter. It's whichever one you think is more beneficial to the saving throws. I'm going to go ahead and do Charisma. Wisdom is going to increase his armor class as well as Dexterity. So right out the gate, we have 16 AC. Even though he has 0 on his armor. And we're going to give him athletics, and we're going to give him acrobatics. The rest of these don't really matter. Now, Karlach we're actually going to keep as a barbarian, but we're going to at least respec, because I've said 1,000 times, 17 strength, 13 dexterity, 15 constitution. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible stat distribution, so we're just going to fix this. Lose a point in strength, trade out constitution for dexterity there. Drop her wisdom. Let's do that. Now, you could go 2 extra points in wisdom or 2 extra points in either intelligence or charisma. You want her strength to be higher because we're already using our potions on our ranger and our monk. You're probably not going to have enough potions to distribute them among 3 different characters. If you think you can somehow pull it off, absolutely. Knock her strength down to 8 and give her the extra point in constitution. Me personally, I'd rather have her just be at a consistent 16 strength without having to worry about the potions. I'm going to give her the 2 points in intelligence. Make them a little bit more rounded. There you go. That's the stat distribution for her. Dexterity, as always, for initiative, for AC bonus. She gets another extra AC bonus for her constitution, so you want her that to be a little bit higher. And then these 3 are pretty much your dump stats. They don't matter nearly as much. We're going to give her perception. Intimidation's fun, but it's kind of useless on her, so let's go ahead and do nature. You need one person to have nature, so it might as well be Karlach. And then we're going to do Sir Fuzzalump. So we're going to keep him as a wizard. Literally, spells don't matter. The important part here is you put wisdom as high as it can possibly go. Doesn't matter, you can throw the rest of the stats wherever you want. Give him a +2 medicine. Other skills do not matter. And this is why right here, once you level him up, we're going to go ahead and give him the transmutation class because he gets experimental alchemy. Whenever he is the one that makes your potions, he gets the chance of making 2 potions instead of 1 on a DC 15 check. So you want him to have high wisdom, you want him to be trained in medicine, and you want him to make all of your potions. That way you always have a chance of getting double potions. It's going to help you make more money. It's going to help you utilize the ones that you want to use more frequently, especially in this playthrough as we are using 2 classes that require strength potions. The more that you can make, the better. Back to Astarion, back to our fancy monk. Level 2, you just get some things that you cannot choose, so just go ahead and level them up. Patient Defense is kind of cool. Step of the Wind Dash, I use all the freaking time. Deflect Missiles is like so underrated. I love it. What you want to do here is you want to go Way of the Open Hand. Barbarian, level 2, doesn't get much. We're just going to level her up. Level 3, we're going to make sure that she is a Berserker. That's going to increase the damage that she deals with Frenzy. It's going to give her resistance to physical damage. It basically makes her an absolute tank, and it gives you Frenzied Strike and Enraged Throw, other ways to deal more damage more quickly, just to get smites, which is pretty cool. We'll get Shadowheart back.
We may have to increase our camp provisions now that we have Karlach along for the journey. Those muscles don't run on fresh air, I'll wager. Still, she'll be useful in a fight. It seems like you have ample company already. You'll need to figure out who you can live without before I can join.
We can definitely live without Sir Fuzzalump.
Lead the way, then.
We want to check Sir Fuzzalump because he comes with some stuff that we can give out. As always, we're just going to sell all the extra stuff. I think this is the best weapon that we have for her because I didn't get the, if you got the flaming sword from the boss in the beginning, this is who you want to give that to. Astarion, we want to unequip his weapons. Go ahead and let him hold on to the crossbow, and we want to make sure that he is not wearing armor either. Doesn't have to be naked. Or you can have him run around naked, that's totally fine too. Or you can have him run around like that, which I'm totally fine with. But monks attack with unarmed attacks, so you don't want them to have any weapons on hand. It is possible to build a monk that attacks with weapons, and there's some items that actually benefit towards that, but in my opinion, you're better off just keeping him unarmed. Make sure that you get the soul coins over to Karlach. Those are going to benefit her in a huge way. And I also give her any throwable items at this point. She's going to do more damage with them with Enraged Throw. And make sure that she has this ring equipped as well. That's why we bought that. Now I'm just going to fix up my radials real quick. Feel free to do this however is best for you. And that is everybody. That is our team. We now effectively have a ranger who's going to stand back and rain a hail of arrows every time combat starts with like 2 or 3 shots right in the beginning of combat. Astarion's going to run in there and beat the crap out of things and knock them dead before they even have a chance to move. She's going to do the exact same thing and also act as our tank throughout this game, and then Shadowheart is going to keep everyone alive. If you have Shadowheart in your team, she can cast all the spells you'll ever need through the use of scrolls. Magic users tend to, in my experience, do far less damage than the output that this party can do. It's that simple. You don't need to get fancy, you don't need to cheese too much, you just need to keep both Astarion and Gale powered up with the use of potions, and everything else just kind of falls into place from there. I am unfortunately running out of time. I'm going to call it here. I'm going to make sure I save before I do anything else. During the next session, I will go ahead and talk to everyone that's here. Extended rest will be nice. Advance the story a little bit, and then we'll get started at the Emerald Grove. Thank you for hanging out with us, everyone. It's been really fun going through all this stuff with you. Make sure to check the Discord to see when we're going to be going live next, or when we do go live, and also the YouTube channel. Catch all kinds of shorts and highlights and stuff from the channel, so I recommend checking that out as well. Alrighty, folks. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you again for hanging out, and I will catch you all next time.